Welcome back to News Talk. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser recently traveled to China with the delegation promoting the district as a tourist destination. So was the trip a success, and what else is on the mayor's trade agenda? Joining us now, Jim Diniger, head of the Greater Washington Board of Trade. Welcome.
Thanks, Mike.
How was the trip?
It was a wonderful trip, very effective. I think the mayor represented the district and certainly the region very well. It was well beyond tourism, of course. It had a lot of business aspects to it. Met with the wealthiest individual in Asia and certainly the head of a very large company. Met with the mayor of Beijing. It's the sister city to the District of Columbia. It's two world capitals. There was a lot on tourism. Actually, the Chinese population is the #1 tourist population now to the District of Columbia, surpassing England. 220,000 people, according to Elliot Ferguson over at Destination DC, and the growth is almost limitless. So it was time well spent and a wonderful investment by the mayor.
The actual time on the ground there, you got back about a week ago, but during your time in China, during all these visits, were there actual tangible deliverables that came out of these meetings?
It was constant. You know, you meet with the ambassador from the United States to China, and that was a very important opportunity for him to put his marker down on the District of Columbia. He's a senator from Montana, says that's his home. His second home is the District of Columbia, but he said that in front of a number of different potential investors in commercial real estate projects here and in other opportunities for investment. But beyond that, the mayor had a private opportunity to talk with him about some of the issues facing residents in the District of Columbia, everything from the opportunities associated and challenges of synthetic drugs to the tourism population of China coming over to the District of Columbia. Meeting with the head of Wanda Corporation, a company that most Americans have never heard of, but they have huge interests in the District of Columbia for investments, and they are doing gangbusters business in China. Wonderful opportunities there. Air China, we collectively with the District of Columbia leadership were instrumental in getting the direct nonstop from Beijing to the District of Columbia through Dulles Airport. That was a big deal. We think there's more growth with United Airlines, with Air China and others. So there were countless meetings. Really, the days were very long, very productive, and I think the mayor and her team set up a remarkable economic development trip.
There were some critiques, if you will, of the trip saying that some of these deals had already been reached before she even got in the plane to go to China and announced before she reached China. But you definitely think that this was a worthwhile time to spend there with this delegation.
Oh, absolutely. I would tell you it's all about relationships, and so some of these have been in the works for a number of years. You stand on the shoulders of people who've come before you, and the mayor will generate some more relationships and more deals that future administrations will benefit from, as long as we certainly hope she's the mayor for a good stretch. But I will tell you that it is about relationships. The Chinese take a long-term view of things, and the district needs to be at the table. The governor of Virginia's been over to China plenty of times. The governor of Maryland's already been there. To be the last person over there is a missed opportunity if you don't go at all, and I commend the mayor and her team for getting there.
I have to talk to you or ask you about the controversy during the trip. A lot of it was frankly overshadowed by a lot of talk and criticism of the mayor and the fresh pack that her supporters had pulled together, basically a political action committee of donors, and including some of the members of the delegation. And basically there were some critical of this. The council member Mary Che basically saying, I don't know what we get out of these trips, suggesting pay-to-play politics with these wealthy supporters of the mayor and her administration and its efforts, having this opportunity to meet with wealthy investors in China going along. So basically, I guess my question for you is, what do you say to folks who are skeptical of these trips, and to Councilmember Che in particular, who basically said, I don't know what we get out of this?
Yeah, I think there are people who wait for the ships to come in and others who swim out to them. And I would put Mayor Muriel Bowser as one of the people who swims out there to bring the ships in themselves. And I have to say, that makes all the difference in the world. You can't be the only one who's not going to China or to the other countries where there are huge opportunities for investments, for tourism. The lifeblood of the District of Columbia, aside from the federal government, is tourism, tourism, tourism. And Elliot and his team over at Destination DC D.C. did a phenomenal job in Shanghai and in Beijing, reaching out to the tourism press, the people who will attract the tourists to the greater Washington area. And not only that, to a travel agency that employs 30,000 people. These numbers are astronomical. It's hard to get your head around it, the way things are done in China. And unless you're there, unless you're present, you don't really have a shot at it. I think that the mayor and her team set this up to do exactly what was needed and then hit the ball out of the park.
I should note that Fresh Pack has been shut down, or is in the process of being shut down now in light of this controversy, and even the Bowser administration acknowledging it was a bit of a distraction. But since the media was so focused on that during her trip, and I think the Bowser administration was hoping that this would be a big focus on business and economic development, the stories that came out of this trip, what do you think was the big headline that was missed? What did Washingtonians miss about this trip?
Well, that the mayor conducted meetings with the mayor of Beijing, a large city, really 25 million people plus, as a sister city, to see where we could actually collaborate more. And there was a sense of pride on the part of the people in Beijing about their sister city relationship with the District of Columbia. I'd say the same is very true up in Shanghai. We met with and had a conducting opportunity to meet with the leadership of the Children's Hospital there, with the head of the Children's National Medical Center here, and some opportunities for collaboration to make their patients better and our patients better through research and more outreach. But then when you're sitting down with the head, the CEO of Wanda Corporation, I would tell people to go look up Wanda, W-A-N-D-A, and understand the size and scope, and that they have real interest in doing business in the District of Columbia.
Why do you think that is? Why do these investors and why do Chinese leaders look at Washington in particular as a place to invest?
Well, I think that we are probably the least costly world capital. I think it is about relationships, and so you do build on the relationships that Mayor Williams started, and Mayor Fenty started, and Mayor Gray continued, and Mayor Bowser.
To China as well.
Sure, and so that you keep this going, and then you also realize that you've got competitors from Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania getting over there and trying to tout their region or their states, and I think that the district needed to be represented. I thought they were remarkably well represented by the mayor, by the CFO, by Councilmember Evans, and then by the business community as well.
A travel official who met with the delegation said that Chinese tourism to D.C. could jump 100%.
Wow.
Is this going to result in actual changes to how Destination D.C. or how the greater industry in Washington should promote itself? Should there be more Mandarin translations in our documents, in our travel destinations? Do you think that there should be something that comes of this?
Oh, absolutely, but it already is. And so I'm going to go back to the mayor and her economic development team. The documents were translated, and in fact, in Beijing, during the presentation regarding the opportunities for investment, it was very clear how much appreciated we were because we had provided the translation. Most of these economic development opportunities from other jurisdictions don't take the initiative to do the translation. And then for Destination D.C., when they made their presentation, and I was at the one in Shanghai, it was actually all done in Chinese. Louis Liu, on the staff at Destination D.C., conducted the briefing on the extolling the virtues and benefits of life in Washington. Having said that, there are more Chinese who speak English than people in the United States who speak English. And so most of the notes that I saw being taken by the Chinese in the Beijing briefing with the ambassador from the United States to China were being taken in English. So it's a very porous border in many respects as it relates to the language.
While we have you here, I want to get your take on this new leadership at WMATA, a new general manager, already fostering some goodwill with the WMATA Riders Union, meeting at his own request with the leadership of that union, which now has 1,600 members. So far getting pretty positive reviews of his first few days in that position. What's your take on his role?
There should be a hashtag on Twitter called Paul Sightings. I saw him this morning. We had him on our executive committee last week. He's everywhere that he needs to be everywhere, out meeting with as many people as he possibly can to absorb as much as he can. Not just the complaints, but where the opportunities are, how different organizations and individuals can be helpful. We all want to help. We don't want to criticize Metro. It's a crown jewel in the greater Washington region, and while it's been tarnished, it is the economic engine for the greater Washington region. The more successful he is, the more successful his team gets to be, the more successful we'll all be. So we need to all help to restore the credibility and confidence that people need need to have in Metro so we can grow it. And when we do so, this will be a shining crown jewel again.
I only have about 30 seconds left. The French president at the White House today meeting with President Obama, discussing security and responding to these militants in France and around the world. What about local spending on security? What message would you have for the feds and how they look at investing those dollars here?
Well, I do think that the ask needs to get in now from Metro, from the District of Columbia, from the surrounding jurisdictions. We are looking at enhanced security. We are looking at enhanced surveillance. We are looking at needs for extra special measures, and that's going to cost money at a time when the jurisdictions don't necessarily have it. I do think that a preliminary or maybe an advance ask needs to be placed now so that we've got the resources to prevent any attacks.
Jim Diniger of the Greater Washington Board of Trade, as always, thank you so much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. We're back with more News Talk in a moment.